It is 6 p.m. and we'll begin this public meeting of the Township of Leeds in the Thousand Islands. Number 2 on our agenda is declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Does anybody have an interest to declare this evening? I have no hands up, so I'll move forward with 3.1 T09-2023-001 road closure and sale application concession to part lot 10 and 11 former front of Leeds and Lansdowne, but I will read the preamble prior to moving forward with that. Personal information collected at this public hearing is collected under the authority of the Planning Act and will be used to assist in making a decision on this matter. All names, addresses, opinions, and comments are collected and form part of the minutes, which are available to the public. Questions regarding this collection should be forwarded to the Director of Planning. The purpose of public meetings is to present planning applications in a public forum as required by the Planning Act. Following presentations by the applicant or staff, council members will have an opportunity to ask questions for clarification or further information. The meeting will then be open to the public for comments and questions. Please, when you speak, provide your name and address for the recording in the minutes. All comments should be directed to myself, the chair of the meeting. The applicant will be provided an opportunity to address the public questions once all members of the public have made their submissions. For the applications being presented tonight, one is coming forward with a recommendation and the other one is just gathering information for this evening. Following a council decision, notice will be circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. If a person or public body would have an ability to appeal the decision of the Council of Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the township before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. So we'll get to the road closure and sale application, concession to part lot 10 and 11, former front of Leeds and Lansdowne. Madam Planner.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. This is an application requesting to stop up, close, and convey a road allowance located in concession to part lots 10 and 11 in Ward 1. The proposed conveyance would be reflective of fair market value of the lands. The subject unopened road allowance is approximately 200 meters in length. The applicant owns property to the north and south of the road allowance. The proposal includes the design and construction of a cul-de-sac at the end of Cheeseborough Road at the expense of the applicant, and this would provide road frontage to an interior landlocked parcel. The details are proposed to be captured in a development agreement between the township and the applicant. Notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the Municipal Act and township bylaws. Staff have not received any correspondence to date with respect to the application. And there's a recommendation and bylaw for council's consideration on the council agenda this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Planner. Questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor Mabey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Has there been a fair market value asked for or found out yet? It also indicated in the draft about a cul-de-sac and where that would be located. And then my other question is this property going to be a subdivision in its future? This road closure is the old 32 before used to travel underneath the train bridge as we do nowadays. So, and that old causeway, that which was the old 32, is also a potential clogging point for our situation that happened at Christmas time. It's one of the two old bridges. One of them is the 32 highway present, and that's the old 32 where the bridge is about 8 to 10 feet wide and can be clogged by debris that moves from what happened at Christmas time. So I have that question as, is that bridge going to be removed because the road will be closed in the future? And the other questions that I had indicated already. Thank you.
Madam Planner.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. A fair market value, that evaluation has not occurred as yet, subject to council's consideration of the recommendation. If it's approved, staff would move forward with that process as well as putting together the development agreement. My understanding is that there's an existing culvert associated with the road allowance that is proposed to be replaced as well as part of the overall works.
Follow up, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the replacement, is that the old bridge that is the right of way?
And Dave's not here to speak to that because I think, go ahead, Madam. Planner.
No, he's not here to speak to that. Those are all details that would be worked through the development agreement process. So that's not finalized at this point and something that we can take back with operations and have further discussions regarding.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Foti.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to our planner or either one of the planners. I'm assuming the way this presentation reads out, that it's the same land owner on either side of this on open road allowance.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So it'll be all one if and when it's passed.
And no, it's not intended to be one parcel overall. The intent is to provide road frontage for the parcel of land in behind that's identified as the subject property north of the road allowance,
Okay.
which is the purpose of the cul-de-sac, to create frontage for that parcel that currently has no public road frontage. And just to go back, there was one question of Councillor Maybes that wasn't answered. There's no intent to put a plan of subdivision back here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Any further comments or questions from other councillors? Are there any questions online, Madam Clerk? No. Any questions from the public? So there's no questions from the public and we've finalized questions from council. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is D14 2023 008, notice of non-statutory public meeting zoning bylaw amendment, vacant land at the corner of Fitzsimmons Road and Granite Ridge Road. So Madam Planner, is that Lindsay? Is that you? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And through you, Your Worship. This is a non-statutory public meeting for a vacant piece of property located southeast of the intersection of Fitzsimmons Road and Granite Ridge Road. Township staff are seeking public input this evening to inform our review of the applications. The meeting is non-statutory as the applications for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment have not yet been deemed complete under the Planning Act, pending the completion of peer reviews of the environmental impact study, noise study, as well as the traffic impact memorandum. Those peer reviews are currently underway. Notice for this meeting was mailed to all owners of property within 120 meters of the subject lands, and signage was posted on each of the road frontages. To date, staff have not received any correspondence with respect to the applications. And we'd like to note that once the applications are deemed complete, staff will be scheduling a statutory public meeting and will issue advance notice of the meeting in accordance with the Planning Act. And just to create a mailing list moving forward for interested members of the public, we've prepared sign-in sheets that are available in the lobby. So if you'd like to receive an email notification of notices for any future meetings or decisions with respect to the applications, please take some time to fill out the sign-in sheet. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, questions from council in regards to this application? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Madam Planner.
Pardon me. Through you, Ms. Jones is here to provide a presentation.
Oh,
and
provide a
overview.
presentation, so we'll wait for that to happen. My apologies. Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
Bear with me. Perfect. All right. Good evening, members of the public, council, and staff. My name is Kelsey Jones. I'm a planner with Photon Planning and Design in Kingston. I'm here this evening on behalf of PEX Marina to present applications for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for the property located at the southeast corner of Fitzsimmons Road and Granite Ridge Road. The purpose of which is to receive feedback from staff and council on the applications. The property is located north of the Thousand Islands Parkway, south of the 401 and west of Ivy Lee. The surrounding area consists primarily of rural residential uses, with some tourist commercial uses in proximity to the site. The image on this slide shows some of those uses, including several marinas along the parkway, including PEC's Marina, and a couple indoor boat storage facilities, which are both north and west of the property. The property has an area of approximately 3 hectares, 172 meters of frontage on Granite Ridge Road, and approximately 136 meters on Fitzsimmons Road. The property is currently vacant and partially wooded, including the eastern portion of the site and the corner of Fitzsimmons and Granite Ridge. And existing vehicle access is provided from Fitzsimmons, and some site alteration and site preparation work has been occurring on the site over the past year and a half, and that has included blasting of rock and regrading. The image on this slide shows that the property is designated rural lands in the United Counties official plan, and this land use designation is intended to protect the natural amenities and rural character of the counties, while providing opportunities for a variety of uses, including recreation and tourism. And it does permit tourist commercial uses. The property is designated rural and located in the Thousand Islands Special Policy Area of the Township Official Plan. And this designation is intended to allow a range of uses, but does not explicitly permit tourist commercial uses as proposed. And the policies of the special policy area require that any new tourist commercial uses that are located south of the 401 and not currently abutting a tourist commercial use be permitted through an official plan amendment. The image on this slide shows that the property is zoned rural, and this zone permits residential, agricultural, and various rural uses. However, it does not permit tourist commercial uses such as marinas or indoor boat storage as currently proposed. The intent of this application is to rezone and redesignate the property to tourist commercial to allow the development of the site with 2 indoor boat storage buildings, which will be associated with PEC's Marina, which is located southwest of the property at 505 Thousand Islands Parkway. The proposal includes 2 rectangular heated buildings that would offer seasonal boat storage. Each of these buildings is proposed to have a height of 3 stories with an area of approximately 3,344 square meters. Each building would have 3 roll-up loading doors that would allow boat trailers to be driven into the buildings for loading and unloading. Existing vegetation on the site is proposed to be retained, including the mature trees at the corner of the site at Fitzsimmons and Granite Ridge, as well as within the eastern portion of the site. And additional landscaping and trees are proposed along the property's frontages. Vehicle access will remain from Fitzsimmons, and 4 on-site parking spaces will be provided. On-site private services in the form of a well and septic will also be incorporated. The primary use of the property will occur on a periodic basis throughout the year, with the main periods of that activity being the beginning of boating season from approximately April 1st to May 30th, and then the end of boating season, which is approximately September 15th to December 1st. Climate change pending, we'll kind of see what those seasons look like in future, but it's intended to be on-site work and use is supposed to be on a periodic basis, kind of at the end and the beginning of the seasons. Approximately 150 boats will be stored on the site, with about 10 to 12 moved per week at the start and the end of the season. But outside of those start and end of the season, generally no activity will be occurring on the property. Just to provide some additional context for the proposal, indoor boat storage facilities are becoming increasingly desirable and common across Ontario and Quebec. And that's due mainly to their environmental and their safety benefits. Outdoor off-season boat storage requires winterizing each boat, which includes significant amounts of single-use plastic, antifreeze, and requires employees to work at heights up to 20 feet to construct the required shrink wrap frames. So at PEC's Marina, the winterizing process creates approximately 6,000 pounds of single-use plastic, nylon rope, approximately 50 20-pound propane tanks, and 3,000 gallons of antifreeze that's created annually as a result of the winterizing process for the boats that they store. And all of this ends up in landfills and disposed of at the end of kind of that de-winterizing process. So the images along the top of this slide show some of that waste that's created. And then as well, the majority of the boats are quite large, and they require larger frames to be constructed before the boats are winterized. This requires employees to work at heights that are oftentimes quite dangerous. Implementation of indoor boat storage facilities eliminates the need for these single-use plastics, antifreeze, and avoids employees working in those potentially dangerous situations. The proposed official plan amendment seeks to redesignate the property to the tourist commercial land use designation, and policies of the special policy area state that commercial uses are encouraged as the main form of commercial development south of the 401, with permitted uses including tourist services, and the proposed boat storage would fall within this category of tourist services. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment seeks to rezone the property to a site-specific tourist commercial zone to allow the indoor boat storage. There's a few site-specific zoning reliefs that we're seeking as part of this application. One of which would be limiting the use of the property to a marina. So rather than the full list of tourist commercial uses permitted by the zoning bylaw, we would be looking to just limit it to a marina. And the definition of marina in the zoning bylaw includes a building where boats are stored, which is why this use is proposed. So rather than kind of the typical marina that you think of when you hear that, the zoning bylaw definition does include buildings for the storage of boats. As well, we're looking to increase the building height from 12 to 15 meters to accommodate a more functional height for indoor storage, loading and unloading within the buildings. And then as well, we're seeking relief for standard parking spaces, accessible parking spaces, and loading spaces. And the reason being, the zoning bylaw has a specific requirement for marinas. And part of that requirement is based on the gross floor area of a building. Typically with marinas, you have a lot of people coming to the site kind of on a very frequent basis for daily use. For this property and these storage buildings, the use will be limited to employees who are bringing boats to the property at the beginning of the season and taking them at the end. So the requirements for on-site storage are very minimal. So we're seeking relief for those just to recognize the limited intensity of the proposed use. And I would just like to note that there have been several technical studies that have been completed and are underway. And these have been completed to assess the proposed development and any potential impacts. As Ms. Lambert had noted, peer reviews are currently underway for the environmental impact study, the traffic impact study, and the noise study. And as well, a geotechnical study is being conducted based off of technical comments that we've already received from the township operation and infrastructure staff. So in summary, the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments seek to redesignate and rezone the property to a tourist commercial land use and zone to allow indoor boat storage, which will support the ongoing operations of PEC's Marina. The proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the United Counties official plan and township official plan. And ultimately, the applications will support the recreation and tourism industry of the region. And the project is intended to be designed in a way to remain compatible with the surrounding rural and rural residential landscape. And overall, in my opinion, this proposal represents good land use planning. And with that, if there's any questions, I'd happy to assist with answering. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. Now we can take comments. Counselor, maybe go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. One of the things that struck me is the orientation of the actual buildings being north-south instead of maybe east-west because of the driveway being on the western side of the property. And just wondered if there was any real solid answer to that question. The other one that came up while your presentation happened is the road construction and whether it's able to take this amount of traffic on a continuous basis, knowing that at the end of the road, there was also another storage unit there many, many years ago put in that does similar work. And let's see, what else did I have? I guess that's it for the moment. Let's see what if anything else comes back. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship. The primary reason for the building orientations as they are currently proposed is mainly because the width of the property west to east is wider than north to south. So if the buildings were to be oriented kind of as you've noted, kind of rotating them, there would be less ability to provide larger setbacks from kind of the south property line as well as the north. So there was kind of, a balancing of, what makes the most sense in terms of on-site circulation, as well as, what potentially provides the largest buffers and, trying to take advantage of that treed area along the east property line. And then in terms of the road and capabilities, that's primarily the reason why township staff have requested the geotechnical study that will assess kind of the load that's being proposed as part of, the trailers on the road, moving the boats to and from the property. So that'll be assessed as part of the technical review portion of the application, and we'll be able to provide you an answer with that following that technical review.
Thank you. Go ahead, Counselor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I have 4 questions. I'll answer them, or ask them all at once. Power washing, will that be done on site or down at the marina? I know in my past, I've worked in the marine industry, and sometimes the power washing spills over into just before it goes into the building. Are there any mechanical work being done? And will it be overflow for parking at the marina during the long weekends in the summer months? And what exactly is the septic servicing?
All right, what was the first question?
Through you, Your Worship. Thanks, Greg. The whether you're doing power washing down at the marina or at the storage facility?
So the initial washing of the end of season will always be done at the marina. Would we have a pressure washer on site? Yes, due to just dust from the customer's boats, we would likely rinse them off there. It doesn't have to be there. We can do it at the marina as we do it now. It doesn't need to happen there, but if that's not allowed, we won't. But if we had a pressure wash, we don't need to pressure wash there.
Sorry, just a justification. The only reason I'm asking is because generally you're using an acid type product to
that won't happen there. No, it wouldn't be ideal.
My other is the mechanical side. I know you just put up a new shop down at the water, and I'm wondering if you're going to have a mechanic shop up here as well.
No. Will there be some small repairs over the winter? Yes, just because of timing and the seasonal climate we're in. This is when customers would like little things done. It just makes it out of the elements. For instance, polishing. Where we have a big struggle in marinas is you only have 10 weeks in the spring and fall to get this all done. We wish we never had to polish a boat, but unfortunately people want it done. And so it just helps that calendar But as far as big noisy mechanical, no, it's all small anodes. You know, if someone hit a prop in the fall, this would be the time to deal with that when it's inside the building.
My other one, through the worship is, will it be used for overflow parking, in the peak periods for the marina rather than parking on the parkway?
Well, that's a good question. Currently, it's a bit of a crisis in this township for boats, and you know, there is no parking, and I hate to bring this up, but when Williams left, it created a bigger void. You know, there was 2 acres of prime waterfront marina storage that just left, and I mean, by all means, I'm not upset with what's there now. I think is beautiful, but these are all island owners, boaters. It's a crisis, and we've parked boats across the street at the KOA. It's not zoned. The owners, Dave and Sue, were more than nice with us and Williams at the time to just help us park little pontoon boats there. There's nowhere to put them. That's the problem. So sorry, back to the question. We don't like parking. We don't like it. And every year we sit down and we say, we're just going to shut the gate, because I could show you, it's $6,000 a year is what we get. It's not a it's a total pain. People get short with our staff. They yell at us when there's no parking. The yard's a mess. Our customers complain. It really is for 1 month period, and all we do is try to accommodate people. Would it help if we were allowed to park some, you know, during that? The real big problem is the Quebec holiday for 2-3 weeks. As everyone knows, this is when all the province of Quebec comes to this beautiful area, and they just want to park their truck and trailer. Would we like to put them inside the building? Absolutely. But again, it's not a financial gain. And every year, my daughter tells me, shut the gate.
And my last, through your worship, that I noticed the septic on there. I'm just wondering, aside from the obvious bathrooms, is it servicing something else?
Well, just because of the nature of storage, there's different size boats. People will just bring their small Sea-Doos type of boat. We will just, because of staffing and the codes, we will need one just small washroom, and that's what it's going to be to service in the recommendation. If we're there during the winter months doing odd little ends, well, we do need an area for a bathroom. Just one bathroom, like that's strict minimum.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Foley, go ahead.
Excuse me, your worship, through you. Councillor Lackey asked a couple of questions that folded over mine, which is fine. Fulton's presentation here, the illustration indicates a small administration building on a 2-floor setup on the most westerly northwest corner.
Mhm.
That is what that is.
Mhm.
Okay. And the floor layout on both these buildings, are they going to be sitting on concrete
Yes.
or concrete poured inside, I should say?
Yes.
So solid.
All concrete.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, your worship, and for you. 2 questions. I just wanted to clarify. You talked about it will only be staff going in and out of there, towing the vehicles in and out. The owners of the boats won't go in and out. I just wanted to clarify that. And also for the storage, are all of the boats going to be stored on grade, or are you going to have any stacked in any way?
Ideally, we would stack the smaller boats. It just makes more sense for square footage. And I just have to say that if a customer from Gananoque brings us an 18-foot boat, they will likely just bring it to that site. And this is why we need some kind of an area to receive them, just like any other, very similar to what Ed Hucks have. You know, they have a small little area, a couple people to administer the people. If the customer wants to come get their boat, we have to have people there to help them get in the building and pull their boats away.
Councillor Grill, did you have any questions? Go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, and through you, your worship, regarding the rezoning, is the tourist commercial, is that the best zoning from a township point of view? I see that we're sort of circumventing, saying, okay, it's a marina, therefore it falls under tourist commercial, but really it's a storage building located some distance from a marina. Are there other designations that are appropriate, or is the commercial tourist the best from our point of view? And just one other question. Are there plans for future expansion on that property? Number one. And number two, do the number of units at PEC's Marina, seeing as it's their marina and we're considering this storage as a marina, does the storage capacity fully exceed what is currently at PEC's Marina? Therefore, it's a business that people could phone you up and store their boats there. Thank you.
I'm not sure what your zoning credentials or what you allow, but
We can get
Fi-
that, we can get that from the
Sorry,
planner.
Craig, that wasn't for you.
Maybe we'll have the planner answer that question specifically, and then we'll talk about the business stuff that he was speaking in regards to. Whether it's just for the customers or you're looking for year-round customers to come in. Go ahead, Madam.
Through you, your worship. So it's not a broad tourist commercial zoning that's being proposed. It's being proposed to limit the use to a marina, and the definition of marina does, as Ms. Jones indicated, include a boat storage as part of the use. It's something that staff will be looking at through our technical review, is to make sure it is the correct fit within the current zoning bylaw framework, and we'll ensure that it's addressed through any future report to council.
Thank you.
So the other question was in regards to capacity and
well, 5 years ago, when we got that property, we live right next door. I came to this township, met with Marnie and some building officials because we knew this was a problem and space, and there was no available other properties along the property. So I did ask the question, is this crazy? Because there's going to be a lot of work, and I was told you're going to have to get all these studies done. And I said, fine, we'll do all that. And it was the township that gave me this zoning, that it would fall under the commercial tourism, because basically all we're doing is supporting the tourists. We're not making bread, we're not building, we're not manufacturing, we're supporting cottagers, islanders, we're just supporting the boating industry. And this is why we proceeded with this application.
so I have a question, and then I'll go to the public for input. Part of your presentation was in regards to reducing environmental challenges with RAP and all of that stuff, because it's going to be heated buildings. So what are your plans for, are you trying to create a carbon net zero building? Is it geothermal heat? Is it, I'm just looking to see if there's going to be solar panels on it. Like, what is the goal to make it as neutral as possible from an environmental point of view?
These buildings are very simple, very well-built, steel structured. The heat, as far as hydro wells, they typically don't do this because of the liability and the cost of the amount of customers' boats inside. They typically put vertical heaters, because if ever one failed, you'd have backup. So that's the safe for the heating of the liability of the boats. The shrink wrap is a real problem. We put, as you know, I don't want to repeat this, but we put 6,000 pounds every single year, just our marina, in the dump. It is not recyclable. The township pays for this. They are nice enough, they bring us a bin every year. All our plastic and Village Keys plastic goes in these dumps, and it goes to the landfill. They put it in the bundles. Do they recycle some? They try, but it's a problem. This gallon of antifreeze has got propylene glycol in it. It's used in RV and boats. It's the most environmentally friendly you can get. That's all you can buy. But it says it's not for human or animal consumption. 3,000 of those gallons go in the river every single year, just our marina. We can't, there's no way to recapture it. It's, if anyone knows a boat, it goes on the ground, and when you start the boat, it's in the river. And those are very key points. But having employees, we had the labor board, we invited them. It wasn't anything happen because the law says 10 feet, you have to be harnessed off in the, province of Ontario. Well, you saw pictures. We're 20 feet up. There is absolutely no resolve to harness off when you're building a frame to shrink wrap a boat. We asked the labor board, there has been no result. It's an industry problem. And this is why, if you look at this township, for the concentration of boats and cottages and islands, I know some people won't like it, but what Ed Hux has done is beautiful. Everyone should be proud of that. What Ivy Lee has done. Up the road from our proposed application, the landing is there. They're not shrinking. It's all positive. So if you ask me what our net zero carbon footprint, one, we would like that everyone is safe with thank God we've had no real injuries. None to speak of actually, but this shrink wrap and we just cut it 6 months in and throw it in the dump. So I don't know what it costs the township, but you're paying for it.
That's fine. I'm going to go to the public at this point. So does anybody have any questions or comments in regards to this application? So I'll ask if you'd like to come forward and sit at the end of the horseshoe, it'll save the back and forth because they're going to answer the questions. So if you'd like to come to the end of the horseshoe and use the microphone at the end, please state your name and your address.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Good. I live on Granite Ridge Road. And so I have a couple of questions. So the proposal, thank you. It's greatly done. I really value your input about the environment, and I think that you've made some great points. I think from living on the road as long as I have, the things that I value about the rural community and my neighbors is that there's always been a really great give and take within the community, right? We've never gotten to know you. There's a lot of blasting being done. There was never sort of any sort of connection from you or your business or your family to your neighbors in the area. I have some questions about asking for a building to be built that will be sort of like height-wise over and above what is, considered, reasonable, how it's going to impact our property values. The other thing is what you've spoken about, 150 boats. I know you're having all of these assessments done about traffic, but that's a huge impact to the people that use that road, that bike on that road, that walk on that road. I recognize that it's seasonal weeks that's happening in, but these roads were really never built for that type of boat transport. 150 boats, is that what you're currently storing, or is that an anticipated growth? I mean, are you currently storing and taking care of 150 boats every season? And then what stops you from, if it's approved, what stops you from expanding? You say you're only going to do very limited mechanics, very simple things, but what's in place if it's approved? What's in place to kind of have owners stick to their word, right? And so these are some of the questions that I have. If you're putting in a septic, and like what prevents, like how do you lay out your business proposal so that the community around you, your neighbors, are confident in the fact that things aren't going to change 5 years, 10 years in, right? That will impact us even further. And I don't know, those are sort of some of my concerns, right?
So I'll have the applicant answer most of the questions, but as far as expansion of service and future use of the building, I think the planner can answer that as far as regulating that.
So
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, in the interest of hearing as much as we can from the public this evening, is it possible that we take all of the comments back and then address them in a comprehensive report when we come back so that we can get
Yeah,
as much input from the
we do
public?
have another council meeting, but the questions are documented and will be answered one way or the other. So further questions from the public? Come on forward. Thank you. Please state your name and your address.
Yeah, Tim Mallory, 181 Granite Ridge. How high are these buildings going to be? I hear 15 meters. That's not 3 stories. That's like 5 stories.
No,
What do you, 10 meter, 10 feet to a story, no? Am I right or wrong? That's what you frame the building as. No, sorry, guys. Yeah.
So the question is how high the building is.
That's
and
50 feet.
3 stories.
That's 48 feet. That's a
40.
5-story building.
there, that's a good point. There was a mistake in that. It's 12 meters. Whatever the law is, the code, it's
It's 38 feet, so we're up
Yes.
to 4 stories. That's more than 3 stories.
Okay.
Now, if I read the county or the township, the buildings are supposed to fit in to the community that we're in. I don't think there's anything around like that.
Okay.
I'm not against like growth in the community, okay? The next thing, when the boats transport, will they be full of fuel? Right, is there any limitation to the fuel in a boat? 1.6 liters. 1 liter is 1.6 pounds. These boats can take a lot of liters when you're into a 45-foot sea, right? And also you'll pump the boats prior to storage?
Yep.
Sewage? That'd be pumped at the marina?
Yep.
Right?
Mhm.
That won't have anything to do with the septic tank. That's us.
no.
The other thing, maybe not a question, I'll be really quick. When I hear commercial, I think noise, light, and traffic. Much to that point. Okay. Don't think it's just gonna be the boats. What I see from the storage facility at the end of the road on the dead end side is that there's a lot of customers follow the boat in to do whatever they're doing. I don't know, paying their bill, whatever. So we get quite a bit of traffic going by Saturdays and Sundays, Friday evenings, a lot. Going by and you gotta put the mindset, well, you're a tourist, you're coming from Montreal, Ottawa, you've been on the 401, the 460, God forbid the 15, and you get off and now you're on a little township road and it's straight. They wheel down that road and it's not their fault. That's just what they're doing, right? We all do the same thing. We get to the cottage, you're that last 2 miles. Yeah, that's what they do. So I'm not saying you can't solve that, but I think it should really be looked at. I know the peer review is left on the study. I saw that. But that should really be looked at, I think.
So speed. Okay. Any further comments or questions, Tim?
None that I can think of right now.
Perfect. Thank you. I've got 2. Mr. Nickelcarn, if you'd like to come forward.
Jamie Upkern, 159 Granite Ridge Road, directly across from the property. All the questions have been basically asked pretty much, but the one thing about the road, I just had a propane truck in my front yard on its side, and I don't think the road is built well enough for what are these boats weigh? You're gonna bring 40 or 50-foot boats up there. I don't think the road's capable of carrying a fire truck going by it while a 15-foot wide boat is coming up the road. So what do we do about the people that live on the other side that are waiting for the fire department to come? It's the boat, the road is not capable, and you're always gonna come up Fitzsimmons. So you're gonna do the corner that with a 15-foot wide boat, because these boats are wide, they're not 8-footers, right? I don't think that's possible. You're gonna end up having to come down Granite Ridge Road, which is every year, these guys are adding 2 inches to the road, and it's 12 inches higher since the last time since we moved in. I just don't think it's possible for that, but that can be fixed, maybe, I don't know.
So the
I don't want
concern
you to
about,
widen the road or screw it up anymore, but that's a big one. That's gonna be a problem, I think, in my opinion. And the height, I'm not keen on looking out my front window at 42 foot, or what'd you say, Tim? 39 feet? That one's kind of a struggle.
So, sorry, Mr. Nickelcarn has the floor at this point. Are there any other comments or questions that you have?
And the lighting,
The lighting.
obviously that's gonna be decided at a later date, but we don't wanna look at an airport either.
Noted.
And I know you bought the property and you didn't buy the property across. What was wrong with the property across the road that's for sale? That's right directly across from Peck's.
It's a marsh.
I know where you can find a great big pile of rock that you can put in it.
I think it's an ANSI, which requires that you can't touch it.
Trust me,
But-
we looked at it, trust me.
Okay, so I have another, Leslie, if you'd like to come forward.
I'm Leslie Truesdell. I live at 66 Granite Ridge Road. Most of my concerns have been addressed by everybody that has spoke up. I'm one of the very few people on the road that still have young children. And we all know kids, as much as I drill it into them that they have to watch and do whatever, the road is not safe. It's currently not safe, let alone safe once we get this amount of traffic going through. The curve at the end, so it would be between 87 and 27 Fitzsimmons Road, that big S curve. I've come close to being taken out on it by the people up at the other boat storage place because the boats are too wide. There's just no doubt about it. They should not be on that road. There's no wide load, typically on your highways, you see your wide load vehicles ahead and behind. There's none of that happening. And I'm not saying you're not going to do that, but there needs to be a plan in place that these rules need to be followed if it is going to happen. The lighting is another huge one for me that I live in the woods and I built to live in the woods because I wanted to live in the woods. I'm going to see the glow. I already get the glow from customs and everywhere else. I can only imagine the glow that is going to come from this. I didn't move there or build there to have that permanent effect every night when I go out to look at the stars and see a glow in the sky to the west of me. You've addressed the prevent future changes. We see what's going on down on the parkway now. What started as a quaint little business, you give an inch, take a mile. I'm very concerned about what becomes of this. The boat storage, not keen on it. I'm not keen on any part of it, but if that's what it is, but as long as it stays as that, and that it doesn't become anything bigger than that. We do not need it to turn down the road 15 years down the road to become an industrial manufacturing site because we've already given the inch of allowing it to be tourist commercial. So I just ask that those concerns be taken into consideration.
Okay, noted. Any further comments or questions from the public? Sorry, I see somebody's hand up, but I can't see behind. Come on forward. And I think that's the last hand, and then we'll move on to the council meeting.
My name is Susan and my husband Owen and I live at 94 Granite Ridge Road. And I have to say, I've been advised not to say anything tonight because, don't upset your neighbors before they decide to become permanent. But I got to say something. We live at 94, which makes us 3 houses between ourselves and the property that has already had the blasting done. That blasting directly impacted our well and our septic system. We have had great water. We've had a great, old but successful septic system. And that changed when the blasting happened. Is there more blasting coming? Is there anything in place to protect anybody else? I actually don't know our neighbors very well. I know 1 or 2 people. I don't know if they had any trouble with their wells or their septic after the blasting, if it's just unique to us. But the Granite Ridge is in our backyard. So your end is at the end of the road and we are connected underground right to our backyard. We've got the hill, it's ours. That rock connected to the blasting messed with our lives already. You kind of talk about the boaters as though they're in crisis, boat storage is in crisis. What you're really saying is that wealthy people need a place to store their recreational vehicles. We just want to have a safe home. We bought out here for a reason, much like Leslie. We want the quiet. We like it out there. We don't want it messed with. Road damage has been addressed by several people, so we don't need to talk about that. I wonder how this affects our property values and our property taxes. If the roads are a problem, our taxes get affected because of your commercial adventure, not ours. Commercial properties are important. We run our own small business, but we don't even have a sign out in front of our house, let alone 3 stories of plastic wrap. We don't want to cause trouble. We don't cause trouble with our neighbors. We don't want to argue. We would really like to be friends. We just want to be quiet and live our quiet lives until we're able to retire. So I'm worried about the taxes going up and the property values going down because a quiet neighborhood becomes a commercial one. I think that's all I wanted to say. I'm very nervous and I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, if there's any, we have one person online. If there's any questions from the individual online, I'll recognize you now if you put your hand up. So no hand has gone up there. Okay, unless there's, go ahead and I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, well, first off, I apologize to the neighbors. We're a very private family. We don't come from here. We just moved here 2 years ago, so I apologize if I didn't attend the local barbecues, and we're just a very private family. We're French Canadians that don't come from here. So it was not to be antisocial. I invite anybody over. We would gladly have a visit. As far as the concerns for the well or the septic, this company that did this work is one of our customers. They drill and blast at the Parliament building. So they have systematic systems that are in the ground during any project. So I can get all those reports, and it would clearly show that even though it looks bad when you're blasting, it would not affect 5 foot away from where the blast happened. So that cannot be a concern, and there'd be no well or septic ever interfered with anything that was done. They would not be able to operate. As far as the traffic, I get it. We live on this road. The cars go flying through there faster than, but I wish I could stop that. The road, there's currently a marina doing the exact same thing that we would be doing on Fitzsimmons. That road has not been damaged in the last 10 years of hauling boats. It's the same thing. We're not doing anything different than the landing going up the road. It's the same road. So if there was clearly any impacts to the road or the shoulder or the width, it would be identified 10 years ago. So they do the same thing we're doing. We're not doing anything different. The lighting, well, of course, we don't want a spaceship landing there. We don't even need lights on these buildings because there's no security at night. We live next door. We do not want to upset neighbors. The height, there was a mistake, and I apologize in the application. It'd be the same height as our current building, which I don't have the exact meters. It's like 12, 13 meters within the code of this township. We're not looking to alter or upset anybody. So traffic, lighting, you don't want a light, we don't need to put a light. And I'll tell you one thing, the corner of that road is too dark. So if anything, I would put a light on the corner of that road to make it safer for everybody. But as far as lighting the building, it's not necessary. So I hope just quickly I can address that to the neighbors, and I apologize if I didn't say hi more at this time.
So as indicated earlier in the meeting, this is a non-statutory meeting. So the whole purpose of this meeting was to get the local individuals who could be affected out so that they have an opportunity to voice concerns, so that when the statutory meeting happens, if it comes to that point, that all those things can be addressed. So we thank everyone around the council table, as well as the public who've come out and who've asked the questions, and our planners have lots of notes, and we thank the applicants for coming forward and listening to those concerns. And go ahead, Madam Planner.
Thank you. If I could just add, if you have any other concerns or questions that come up after this evening, if you can submit anything in writing so that we can ensure that it's addressed going forward in comprehensive reports, and we can make sure that your questions are addressed.
Sure, go ahead.
If by chance this is approved, and if by chance it is deemed that the pathway entry for Fitzsimmons is non-viable, that then will be impacted to assume that Granite Ridge Road might be the viable entry point or delivery of the vehicles. Like, at what point do we have that discussion for the people that live on Granite Ridge Road to assume that additional traffic?
All final presentations will be made at the statutory meeting. So there's a secondary meeting that's coming. And this is just sort of the lead up to make sure that when the mandatory meeting happens, that they have as much detail and information based on the comments made this evening.
Okay,
If it comes to that point.
thank you.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Okay. Oh, lastly, please, if you want to have any information further from this evening's meeting, please put your name, address, and contact information so that we can stay in contact with you to let you know. And the same goes to what the planner said. If you have any questions or comments, they can be submitted directly to the planners here at the township in the meantime, and then you'll be advised of the next meeting. Okay. So with that, I have a motion to adjourn coming from Councillor Maybe and Councillor Jameson, that the public meeting adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Thank you.